Hi, everyone. My name is Chiyoko Kakino, and I am the Executive Vice President of Real Property Management here in Canada. And I will be the moderator of this Women in Leadership panel in celebration of Women's History Month. So I am just surrounded by wonderful, smart, talented people today, and I'm super, super excited. So thank you, Treena, Erin, and Sandy for being part of this group of Real Property Management ladies. So I really appreciate your time today. So thanks for joining us. I wanted to start off by getting a little bit of background on each of you. So maybe, of course, introduce yourself, what real property management office you're with, and really talk a little bit about your journey in your career, specifically focusing on your journey to owning a real property management company, or in Sandy's case, of course, she's with Home Office, and then talking a little bit about when exactly you made that transition to a leadership role. So Treena, why don't we start with you?
Thank you for having me. This is really excited, and I'm honored and privileged to be here with such great company. My name is Treena Piva. I am one of the owners of Real Property Management Executives in Kelowna. I own it with my husband, Erin. My background really has been a compilation of really experiences that I think brought me to a place where I could be a business owner. I have come from a long lineage of entrepreneurs, so business owners and some politicians in there. Definitely people, and strong women especially, who have really kind of broken through the barriers and boxes of what is traditionally a woman in leadership. So my background really is in community development, strategic planning, corporate capital fundraising. I've ran some big fundraising events for huge capital municipal projects. I've ran some political campaigns, and I've really been very involved in operational, high-level operations, really. So what brought me to real property management was my husband, Erin, and I wanted to leave the Lower Mainland, and we wanted to come to Kelowna. We chose Kelowna as a community that we really wanted to grow in and raise our family in. And so we looked for a business to start here, and we looked at a lot of different options. But when we were presented with the opportunity of opening a franchise, RPM franchise in Kelowna, it just felt right. Both of us come from real estate backgrounds. We've been investors, we've been landlords, we've built, we've flipped, we've pretty much done everything when it comes to in real estate. And it just felt like a really great opportunity for him and I to compile and to mesh our respective skill sets. We have a very different skill set, which we feel is very complementary. And we started it out. So we've been here for just over 5 years. We grew from just the two of us working from our kitchen table, and now we've got an office and a team of 9. And we're just growing and having a great time here in the Okanagan. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Great. And Treena, how long have you said you've been in a leadership role?
And with RPM?
With any, just in a leadership role generally, how many years do you think it'd be if you had to guess?
I would say most of my working career. I'm that kind of person that always puts my hand up and volunteers for everything. And my personality usually just kind of leads me to the front of the room. So I would say confidently, probably for sure the last 20 years.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us again. Erin, what about you? Why don't you introduce yourself, what office you're with, and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I'm Erin. I own Real Property Management Riverview with my husband, Tyler. We've been doing this for about 2 years now, and neither of us really came from a background that, me specifically, that put me in a leadership space. So this has been pretty new for me, but we were investors and owned our own real estate, and really enjoyed the management side of things. And like Treena said, I think we both have different skill sets that complement each other really well in doing this. So kind of since we've started our RPM office, I've been taking on a management side alongside him and being a leader for just our team of 2 right now. But yeah, I've been really enjoying it.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us, and we're really excited to have you part of the RPM family. Sandy, what about you? Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Chiyoko. So I'm Sandy Dio. I'm the current brand manager at RPM Home Office. So I come to this interview from a different angle. I know Treena and Erin are both office owners. Myself, I work on the home office team supporting their national efforts and, you know, helping the brand grow across Canada. So I've been in this current role now 3 years. This was my first corporate leadership position. So I took that after 2 years of being part of the team. And yeah, love my marketing team. I love being part of the home office, you know, team as well, because it is very much female dominated. I think I want to say everyone is now female in the home office team, which I think is amazing in the corporate space. And also get to work with a lot of amazing women office owners across the network. So yeah, I thrive in this environment. I love it. I think it's so inspiring to see, you know, women making a real mark in this industry, which predominantly, you know, is quite male heavy. And not just making their mark, but really leading the space. So yeah, super inspired to be part of it. A little bit in terms of my background. I do come from a marketing background in terms of education. I also have, since I was 19, have been in the entrepreneurial space. I've had the most random of businesses, from selling socks to selling phone cases, wedding dresses, clothing, neon signs. Like, yeah, I'm one of those people, I see an opportunity and I think I could do that. And along the way have failed a lot, but learned a lot. I think from those failures, definitely learned a lot. And it's now brought me here to RPM. I love the property management space. My family are also in the industry back home in England. So it was a perfect fit when I joined during COVID, when the opportunity came about to join as initially the graphic designer and then now the brand manager. So yeah, super stoked to be here.
Thanks, Sandy, for being part of this panel. So let's talk about now, what skills does an effective leader need these days? So Erin, why don't we start with you? What skills do you think an effective leader needs?
Yeah, for sure. I think having solid communication skills is paramount. Empathy for the people around you, and being able to be adaptable. This industry and, you know, the world in general changes so fast these days. So being able to be adaptable to that is important.
Sandy, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Erin's answers. I think empathy is a big one. Another one I think is being a cheerleader. I think you have to be that person that pumps your team up. You know, when things are getting busy or, you know, things happen in people's lives, you also have to be very aware of that. But just being that cheerleader, that person of support for them. Also delegation. I think you really have to learn delegation. It's sometimes not natural to some of us, especially, you know, if you consider yourself as a high achiever and you're or an independent worker, being able to then go off and delegate, I think that trust plays a part in that as well. Just trusting your team and building a really solid team around you that not only fits your leadership style, but you have to adapt to them, right? So yeah.
Great, thank you. Treena, what skills do you think an effective leader needs these days?
I think of a leader as being like a convener of talent, of that person who can be an ambassador for a cause. Or so for me, for being involved in real property management, I'm an ambassador for my business in everything that I do and everywhere that I go. And I think it's my role as a leader to attract and inspire talent. I want to bring together a group of people and I want to inspire them to be their best. I want to excite them and pump them up and give them the space to be brave and make decisions and show their own leadership. So we use a lot of metaphors of like a sports team. I'm married to a sports person, so everything we do is literally has some kind of hockey reference or team to it. But so I see being a leader as being a coach, and a good coach is somebody who knows their teammates' best skills and best qualities, but also can see their potential and really show support and inspire them to bring out that potential that they may not even know that they have. So I think it's really just being a convener of talent, and definitely an ambassador and a cheerleader, getting people excited and engaged.
Great. And you do such a good job of that. Treena, I know that you've been in a leadership role for a number of years, as you mentioned, a good 20 years. How is leadership different today than it was in the past?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I really had to think about that. I think in the past, a leader was always someone, well, typically male. If we're really honest, it typically was our dads in that generation. And a leader back then was more of the traditional boss who made the rules and set the tone and just delegated, but really was the one who made the decisions and had the doers underneath them to do the work. I think leaders now are more visionaries. I think it's not so much the doers, but it's the actual visionaries. And I think being a leader now is really, again, just kind of being that head coach, that person that can listen and observe and inspire. Where back in the day, the leader was someone who was telling you what to do, and you just did it.
Sandy, what do you think? How do you think during your duration as a leader, how do you think that's changed over, time?
Yeah, so being in in a leadership role for quite a short period of time, it's probably not changed too dramatically, but I think I came in with the idea, kind of similar to what Treena was saying, that a leader is a manager. And that those are interchangeable. But as I kind of developed in the role, and I've taken leadership courses and stuff, it really opened my eyes that they're very different. And people really react different to managers versus leaders. And that visionary piece plays such a big part. And trusting your team enough that you don't have to micromanage them. I think a lot of managers have that bad kind of rep of, micromanaging and watching over people because they don't trust their people. You need to remember these are your people. You brought them together for a reason, and you're there to inspire, lead. So yeah, I think the way that it's kind of fleshed out now, it's a lot more inspiring. And I think a lot of the younger folk entering the workforce, it fits better with their culture as well and working style.
Great. Thank you, Sandy. Erin, how has leadership changed for you today versus in the past?
Yeah, I also haven't been in a leadership position for very long at all, so I don't know if I can necessarily speak on how much it's changed for me in the last year, 2 years. But I think as a whole, leadership is a lot more about empowering the people around you and collaborating and working together than it has been in the past.
Great. And just staying with you, Erin, what has, and I know you've been in a leadership position for a relatively short period of time, but you're doing a great job. So what has been maybe one of your biggest challenges so far as a leader, and how have you overcome it?
Yeah, I think especially with this being my first time in a leadership position, I think a lot of imposter syndrome and self-doubt has been a big challenge for me. And I think just challenging myself to get out of my comfort zone and learning from other women in this network and around me has really helped me work on that. We're not all the way there yet, but it's getting there.
And Treena, over the years, what has been your biggest challenge as a leader, and how have you overcome it?
I think balance. I think balance, trying to find that work-life balance. I think that women in business have had this interesting journey over the last, 2 generations, where my mother grew up in a world where women could be everything, right? They could go to school, they could have careers, they were given all of the opportunities that men would have. Maybe there wasn't equity in pay, but definitely in career options, more so than there had been in previous generations. But I still think that whole concept of being able to have it all is a complete fallacy that I think my generation, and I'm thinking my daughter's generation, are starting to realize that you can't be good at everything. You can't have it all. And so for me, the challenge has been having this realization that I can't I want to put 150% into everything I do. But if I'm doing that as a wife and as a mother and as a homemaker and as a business leader and as a volunteer, I'm not going to be able to be 100% or 150% to everything. So to me, it's finding balance and realizing that knowledge that I can't do it all. I can't be it all. I can't have it all. And that there has to be choices. And so I've had to make mindful choices in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years of what were my priorities and what could I delegate out? And, having the self-awareness that delegating out didn't mean failure, right? So I'll give you an example. I have 5 kids ranging from 14 to 31. I have a granddaughter as well. And last year, we hired someone to help us with food preparation because I was finding that I would come home from the office at 6:30 at night and I'd have to drive kids around to whatever their activities were. And my kids were eating terribly. Our family was eating terribly. And I was having so much guilt because I figured as the mother, it was my job to keep my family nourished and the groceries in the fridge. And I wasn't doing that because I was busy running a business and busy with all of my activities at work. So I had to really eat some humble pie and realize I needed help. And not feel guilty about that, which was the key. How do I not feel? Because I thought if my grandmother knew that my Ukrainian grandma knew that I hired someone to help me with food preparation, she would just be aghast. But realizing that I can't do it all, I can't be expected to do it all, and just being able to be self-aware enough to know that and to delegate it and not feel shame on that. That was a big deal for me.
Great, thank you. Sandy, what has been one of your biggest challenges as a leader and how have you overcome it?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good question. I think a challenge that I've had and probably continue to have is when it comes to having those tough conversations with your team, and also looking out for the greater good of the team as a whole. There's going to be times when people on your team are underperforming for many reasons, and you do your best to support them, but there's sometimes that time where you just got to cut people, for the greater good of the other folk on your team. And especially as they look at you, if that person is bringing everyone down, they look at you to make those hard decisions. So I've had to do that with the team. And I think I definitely was very hesitant, and it actually cost me more time, more stress, not making that decision earlier. So that's something now I'm more aware of, and still go out out of my way to support my team. But sometimes people are just not the right fit, and you do them a favor as well, right? If they're constantly underperforming, it's very unmotivating for them. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I've had.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Sandy, how would you describe your leadership style?
I would say pretty casual. I think I have, again, I'm very new to the role, so I'm very open to learning. And, and I understand, there's times when you need boundaries and you need processes in place, but I'm very empathetic to my team, and I would class them as friends, you know, but still being very cognizant of the fact that I am there for a role to do a job to best support them. So yeah, I would say it's very casual, very friendly. I always believe in getting in the trenches with the team. Like, if we're working on projects, I will be with them there, or it's something I've done before that I can help them, navigate through. So I never usually ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't personally be comfortable doing. So yeah, I would say that's probably my approach to it.
Great. Erin, how would you describe your leadership style?
It's tough. So I'm new to the role, and it's just my husband and I now, so we're kind of on a similar playing field. So it's interesting kind of managing how we run our business together more so than managing a team. But I would say as a leader beside him, I'm very empathetic to the people we're interacting with each other. And I really work to empower myself and Tyler to be our best and to do our best for the people around us who are counting on us.
Thank you. Treena, how would you describe your leadership style?
I think it's important for me that I feel connected to my team and to people that I'm with, to really feel like there's a safe place for them. I like to think that I'm an intuitive person and I can read situations and people. I think it's really important that I maintain that connection with people. I think it brings out authenticity, and I think it just creates kind of a safe space. So I think I'm very much about connection and being intuitive, but also I want to inspire people. I love it when people around me have better ideas than mine. It's so exciting. And when I can see people that I'm working with or volunteering with feel that they have the space to be able to come up with new ideas. To me, that's a success as a leader, when you have people in your space that are brave enough to be able to come forward with big ideas. So I'd like to think that I'm supportive and I'm intuitive and really put a lot of emphasis on connection.
And Treena, how do you think your leadership style has evolved over the years? Like, that's how you are now. If you're to look back, how has it evolved?
Oh, that I thought about this question and it was uncomfortable to actually be honest with myself, because I think in the beginning, when I think of my earlier positions and my earlier career choices, I thought I was the smartest and I knew the best, and I didn't listen very well. I was more of that kind of dictator role where I shared my opinion and wanted everybody to do what I thought was the best. And so I can look back on some career situations that I'm almost embarrassed of now, because I realize in retrospect how much I didn't know. So I'd like to think that as I get older, I gain more humility and I realize how much I don't know, which is interesting. I think you're supposed to get smarter with age, where I feel like it's almost the opposite, where I realize how much I don't know and don't do. So I think it's just that perspective of listening and humility.
And Erin, I know that, you talk about being in a leadership role for a very short period of time. How has your style changed? Like, so even if you look back 2 years ago,
Yeah.
when you joined Real Property Management, how has it changed to where you are today?
Yeah, I've learned a lot, and I've definitely had to push myself to do things that are outside of my comfort zone. I started, and sometimes I still am, but very passive. I've called myself a people pleaser in the past, where I'm hesitant to, maybe hurt somebody's feelings or have a difficult conversation. And I think through, challenging myself and learning from the women in this network, I've started to become more confident in myself and in my position to be able to do these things and be a better leader.
Great. I've seen so much growth within you within the 4
Me
months that I've been
too.
with this
I know.
company.
I think of Erin, when I
Right?
first met you, you were so shy and quiet.
Yeah.
I love
Oh.
watching you evolve the last couple of years has really been a joy.
Yeah, your growth has been just absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. Sandy, how has I know again, you've been in a leadership role for a shorter period of time. How has your leadership style evolved over that time?
I would say I think I am more aware that of the differences between people and how they're going to react to certain things. So I think when I first came to this role, like Erin, I would say definitely I'm more of a people pleaser. So I would always assume, okay, well, that person on my team is also like that. Maybe I would be hesitant to give them certain feedback, because I know when I was maybe in their position, I would have took it negatively or, got defensive. Whereas I've actually learned that this person, they take criticism really well, or, they actually prefer this over this. And I think I was almost like projecting my insecurities onto them, and reflecting it back. And now it was kind of step back and like, actually, these folk are in different stages of their lives. They adapt and take things differently to me. And I think that's something I've really enjoyed learning about my team.
And Sandy, what pushes you outside? Like I think Erin brought it up too, is just this comfort zone, right? Is what pushes you outside your comfort zone?
What pushes me out of my comfort zone is quite a lot actually. So I'm I am an introvert. And you know, I'm a very creative person. I like my creative bubble. Previously, I've always worked independently. I've had my own businesses and you know, and usually in the product space. So, you know, you hide behind your computer, you're just shipping out orders. It's so different to when I came into kind of a corporate role like this. So kind of public speaking or presentations were not my thing at all. But I was just lucky enough. Well, at the time I thought I was unlucky, but I was always put into these positions. And over time, it just got easier and easier. And I actually like leaving a session and feeling, you know, people actually got something from it. I've been able to help people. So yeah, that's probably one of the things that I think I've definitely learned whilst being in this role.
Treena, what pushes you outside your comfort zone?
Well, I think a couple things, but probably communicating unpopular opinions. I'm a people person as well, but I want people to like me. And as much as I'm less worried about what people think of me, I don't like controversy or conflict. So when it comes to sharing an unpopular opinion or being kind of taking a contrary position on a topic, that makes me a little bit nervous. Wanting to avoid the conflict is really what it is. And for me too, like learning the art of delegation, it was really hard for me. It still is hard for me. I tend to want to just, I'm impatient. I want to see results. I want to see them now. And instead of teaching or inspiring someone to do a role, I'll just want to do it myself just so that it gets done. So really having to go outside of my comfort zone to realize what is my time best spent doing strategically, and what can I delegate? And knowing that, you know, delegating, whether it's a task at work, whether it's work related, or whether it's meal preparation for my family, what can I give away and not feel like I'm somehow failing or inadequate?
Thank you. Erin, what pushes you outside your comfort zone?
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of things, especially in starting this business, that have pushed me outside of my comfort zone. I've had to do a lot of things that I've never done before, a lot of things that I've not been 100% confident in. And, you know, that feeling of potentially messing something up, it's been hard to get used to, but we're working on it. You know, doing new challenging things has been really important in me learning a lot about myself and you know, expanding how I am as a leader and my confidence. Yeah.
It's funny because this is kind of sidetracked, but you know, Erin, when you and I met when I first joined the company in October, right? You were like, I don't know about you know being on video on social media, and I just did my first one, and now
Yeah.
you're just like, I see you all the time. You are absolutely amazing, but that's just you know a great example of pushing yourself outside the comfort zone. I know how hesitant you were. I know how wonderful you are now. So
Thank
that's
you.
just a great example. And if anyone wants to see Erin's, you know, videos, just go and follow Real Property Management Riverview.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Absolutely. So Erin, if you were going to rewind the clock, you know, maybe not, let's say 10 years, 7 years, not too far back, because then you'll be very, very young. And you're writing a letter to your younger self. What advice would you have loved to be given at that time?
Yeah, I think about 10, 15 years ago, I would have been a teenager and just going through it. I think if I could tell myself anything, it would just be to embrace your abilities and believe in them, and embrace failure. I would tell myself to, you know, use your voice, speak up. It's okay. Take risks and just believe in yourself.
Well, those are some great pieces of advice. Sandy, what about you? What advice would you have liked to learn from yourself? Would you love to be given at, when you're younger?
I think so. 10 years ago, it was when I first moved to Canada. I still remember being sat on that plane. I was 22 at the time, and just full of like so much excitement and hope. It was a fresh start. I come from a little village in the UK, moving to Canada, came by myself, and I very out of my character. Again, I was a homebody. I love my family, and to move halfway across the world at that time, I only thought for a couple of years for education. But I remember coming and being so excited. I would now have said to myself, keep that excitement, keep that, just stay curious. So easy to fall into like daily habits of things and let time pass you by so fast. I think back 10 years ago, I'm like, wow, like that memory's so clear to me. I wish I could just have bottled that excitement and kept it with me. But yeah, I think that's probably that. Just stay curious and excited about everything, I think. Yeah.
Great. Treena, what about you? If you were to write a letter to your younger self, what advice would you have loved to be given at that time?
Well, I can go back 20, 30 years, right?
I wasn't going to say anything. You and me, you're like, okay.
I know. Well, I think I would tell myself to stop worrying. I worried so much. I worried about what I looked like, and I worried about what people thought of me. I worried about not being good enough or being, I would, the social anxieties that I would have, I would leave a situation and I would dissect everything I said and did and like be so hard on myself. And I think I would just tell myself just to relax and not to be so caught up in worrying about what other people thought. I find that the last probably 5 years, I really truly feel like I've come into my own. I wish that I would have had this kind of confidence, and I don't worry about the things I used to worry about. And I guess I look back at that younger version of myself, and I just want to give her a hug and just be like, just chill out, just stop worrying so much about what everybody else thinks, and just trust your intuition and trust that I am good enough, right? I always put everybody else in front of me and everybody else's priorities and goals, whether that was my partner or my children. And I feel like the last probably 5 to 10 years, I've really kind of taken that back and been like, no, this is my life too. And what is it that I want to do? And just been brave and unapologetic about it.
Well, it's interesting, Treena, because, you and I would have similar answers to this question because, I look back on what the advice I would have liked to have been given was, just be yourself.
Yeah.
And so today, when I'm talking to younger people, I'm like, what I say is, the magic happens when you're just yourself, right? Not being someone that you think people want you to be. And when you're just kind of truly being yourself, that's when the authenticity comes through. That's when your passion comes through. And I think that that's why I talk about the magic. The magic happens when you're just yourself. So anyway, thank you all.
The perception of your own lens on yourself too is just so interesting, right? Like how we see ourselves and how others see us is so very, very different. So it just knowing that how I saw myself when I was 16 years old and how I actually was when I was 16 years old was completely different.
So Treena, just staying with you, is what qualities do you think women bring to leadership roles in the property management space?
Well, I think Sandy said it's typically, this is a very male dominated industry, real estate and corporate. And I think we bring something really interesting to this particular property management. We're dealing with housing. We're dealing with a fundamental need of a human being, where they live, their space, their safety, their sense of security. And so that's a big deal. That's a big deal to be the provider of that and to make sure that we're delivering that. So I think that as a woman, being able to bring compassion and empathy into this industry, that is really a core of what we need as human beings to feel safe and secure. But I also think this is an industry where there's a lot of potential for conflict with tenants, with clients. There's a lot of problem solving that goes on every single day. The amount of problems that we have to solve in a day in our office is, some days it's insanity. So being able to be a problem solver and approaching conflict resolution in a way that de-escalates a situation, doesn't escalate a situation. I think that we bring something very unique to the table with our just intuitiveness of how we approach conflict and trying to de-escalate, show compassion, show empathy, show kindness, is, really will serve us well in this industry for sure.
Great, thanks, Treena. Erin, what do you think? What qualities do you think women bring to leadership roles in property management?
Yeah, I think Treena hit the nail on the head. That intuitive, empathetic energy is so important in this industry. There's a lot of situations where emotions get high, and just having kind of a neutral and empathetic approach to that, I think is really, really a strong characteristic to have.
And Sandy, do you have anything to add to that? Just about, what women bring to leadership roles in property management?
Yeah, I think and it's very clear, Treena and Erin, you possess those qualities, and it makes you shining examples as leaders, along with the other females that we have in the network. Is just that compassion, also being able to like read body language, read between the lines. Often it's the things that people don't say that women, I feel, pick up on a little bit better. Yeah, and I think it's, as a woman in an industry like this, you also have the benefit of being approachable. People will seek you out because maybe they've not had as great experience because of, entering a very male-dominated space, and they'll seek out that feeling of not being judged or a safe environment. So yeah, I think there's so many benefits of being a woman in this kind of industry.
Great. Well, thank you. Let's look to the future now. So, Sandy, what skills or qualities do you think a leader needs to be successful in the future? So let's fast forward 5 years. I know we can't tell, we can't forecast what the future is going to look like, but what skills do you think are going to be most important?
I think listening. You're going to have to be very good at active listening, especially as our teams, different generations enter the workforce. We're going to have to be listening to a lot of different opinions, a lot of different views on certain things. And how do you take all those, make people feel heard, and then, come out at the end of it with a product or something that works for everyone, leadership style, everyone can relate to. So yeah, I think active listening for sure. And I believe it was Treena mentioned it, but just the visionary piece, because things do change so fast. You always have to be ahead of the crowd and lead by example, right? Inspiring people, coming out with creative ideas, and that's going to inspire your team to also do the same.
Great. Treena, what skills or qualities do you think that a leader is going to need to be successful in the future?
I think you need to be relevant. I think you really need to be on top of what's going on in the industry. I think in our space of property management, Sandy's right. Things are changing so quickly, even in the last 5 years with interest rates and COVID and, legislation. There's been so many things that have happened in this industry that we've had to really quickly pivot and be adaptable to the changes. But I think being relevant, having knowledge, and with technology is just so evolving. It's so unbelievably fascinating, and just staying relevant on top of what are the trends, what's happening, and then being that calm person so that when the last 5 years, this industry there's been some scary times. There's been a lot of fear for franchise owners. There's been fear for investors. There's been fear for tenants. Being that calm person who can be really focused on solutions and not the energy of panic and concern, but just being that calm, safe voice.
Thanks, Treena. Erin, what about you? What skills or qualities do you think a leader needs to be successful in the future?
Yeah, I think that willingness to be adaptable and embrace the change in kind of all aspects of, especially in property management. You know, you've got new generations in the workforce, you've got new generations in the rental market, who are all looking for different things. Even investors are changing and, you know, looking for different things. So being able to adapt and be flexible, I think, is what will set people apart.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And that would really have been my answer, right? Being adaptable, because the other thing is me at my point in my career, I'm dealing with such a huge range of age, groups and demographic groups and, just how they respond versus how other people respond. And so it's really kind of adapting your leadership style to the person that you're working at, coaching and mentoring. So that is definitely something that is, I think, needed in the future. So this is the last question to all of you. So thank you so much for spending the time with me. So Erin, let's start with you. Who's a leader that you admire and why do you admire them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to have the cheesiest answer, but over the last 2 years, I have truly, truly learned so much from all the women in this network. You know, they've all been an inspiration to me. And, you know, I walk away thinking, oh, well, you know, what would Treena do? Or what would Sandy do? Like, how am I going to approach this situation? And I think they all just have so many amazing characteristics that I strive to put in my own leadership.
Well, we love that cheesy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Sandy, what about you? Who's a leader that you admire and why do you admire them?
So yeah, I think I have a lot of specifically female influences in my life. I've just created my world to be like that. Even on social media, I predominantly only follow female leaders and podcasts and whatnot. So I can't really pinpoint anyone specifically. But yeah, just kind of creating a world that it's very female dominated, and like that again, that's how I thrive. Working alongside obviously the RPM network, watching our office owners, male and female, as they grow their businesses. Again, I love business. So seeing that is so inspiring. Chiyoko, when you joined the team as well, you brought such an energy and passion. And it really, inspired me to, want to do more and emulate some of your characteristics that do not come naturally to me, but I've seen how, effective they can be. And I probably, yeah, other than that, it's probably also Carla. She's probably one of my first big corporate influences, and she continues to be. So she brought me to this role, into the leadership role. I think she was probably the first person who has believed in me more than I've ever believed in myself. And yeah, she not only brought me in this role, but she helped me bring my team together, and I, do training with her on leadership stuff. So it's really inspiring to be, with so many females in the team, and obviously the rest of the home office leadership team as well.
Great. Thank you, Sandy. And for those people that are listening, Carla is the past president of Real Property Management Canada. She's heading up some projects with our parent company, and she's also still the owner of Real Property Management Professionals, which is in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So Treena, why don't we end this discussion with you? Who's a leader that you admire and why do you admire them?
Oh, I put some thought into this and I felt like I had an obligation to say that it was going to be a woman, being that it's International Women's Day. But I'm honestly, when I really think about it, I would say it's my husband. I would say it's Erin. I think that he's taught me something really interesting about leadership. I always thought of leadership as being an alpha trait, that you needed to be an alpha personality, you needed to be an extrovert, you needed to be commanding of attention and almost evangelical in personality. And he is none of that. He is the absolute opposite of that. And yet he is the most fascinating leader. I watch him and what he does, and he does it with, he's not an alpha, but he still commands the attention and he still inspires, and he is such a good listener. So it's interesting as a woman, because I've always felt like I've needed to really champion that alpha energy in me to be a leader. And then I see that there's this leader who is the opposite of alpha, but is just so effective and inspiring. So I would say it's him. He's also surrounded by a lot of women. We have 4 daughters and a granddaughter. So there's a lot of estrogen. There's a lot of female energy in our world. And I will say they're all very strong female energies of all of our girls. But he just has this amazing way of giving people space to be their best, and in a way that's very confident and kind. Yeah.
Well, that's such a nice way to wrap everything up. Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, your insight, your advice, your stories. They were just so inspiring. I want to wish you all a very happy International Women's Day. I am just very honored to be surrounded by such strong, confident, talented, and driven women. So I really appreciate your time today. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. So thanks so much for taking time out of your day. And I will see you soon. I know I will.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.